you again for coming on here. So my name is Mikkel Silversmith. I am with the Navajo Sustainable Agriculture Project, known as the NSA project. So our project is funded by the Outreach and Assistance for Native Farmers and Ranchers and Veteran Farmers and Ranchers program. So I'll be your host and moderator for this evening. Our presenter is Jessie Jim. She is the Navajo Nation Department of Agriculture manager. And we're going to be diving into the agriculture infrastructure fund updates. And she's going to share with us several updates under the AIF program. So with that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and move my mouse and hopefully it goes to the next slide. Okay. So apparently, I guess we're having those times where technology is not really friendly with us when we want it to be. But I'm just going to go ahead and just continue talking about our project. So we deliver in-person workshops and webinars that are tailored to producers' needs based on the feedback we gather from each of our sessions, whether it's through webinars, you know that there is a poll at the end of the webinar event. And we also have for in-person, we have the evaluation that we also give out. So those are the evaluations that we use to understand what type of information you want to see more of on our platform. And it gives me a sense of, an idea of like what is more needed as far as resources go. And some of our recent workshops have included a lot of livestock record keeping. In the beginning of this year, we provided a lot of that information and outreach in person. We did have livestock first aid. We did have some food preservation. We did have some folks from different universities touch base on lambing preparation, ewe and goat. What was it? Pregnancy nutrition. We did have calving preparation and so forth. So we definitely want to tailor the topics to the type of seasons that we're going down. So this summer is perhaps, we already had plants implemented in the raised beds. And so now we're just maintaining it and so forth. So those are the type of information that we have been giving out, as well as, partnering with Dene College Land Grant Office when it comes to the Shiprock Ag Expo that was really well prepared and presented. A lot of folks came from different parts of the area that showed up for this 2-day event, and it was pretty great. We did have livestock the first day, then the second day was farming. So we do have New Mexico CES specialists, such as Kevin Lombard, who invited us out to his event, which was the correct me if I'm wrong, Terrell. I believe it was Plant Day. I think
Sorry, what was going on?
it was the Plant Day, right, at the Science Center.
Yes, yep, it was.
Okay.
Yes, they were selling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a plant day, but he did allow us to have a booth there and get familiar with a lot of folks that come around the Science Center for education. So we did, make ourselves available, and we did have Indian Livestock Days was provided by New Mexico State University, the College of ACES, and USDA for having some of the faculty from McKinley and San Juan County provide information and outreach during our USDA series. So we're really involved with our project partners, and it goes a long way. So we're definitely here to provide you the education that is, required from us to give to you. So another essential goal of ours is to help increase producers' knowledge in USDA programs. Many of you are familiar with NRCS and FSA, such as drought loss assistance, crop disaster assistance, So that's the reason why we're having this USDA NNDA resource fair is to share with you all, what type of programs are available, particularly for you as producers. And so that's why we invited, Gerald Chavez from McKinley County to talk about programs that will pertain to producers out here. On the reservation, then for San Juan County, it's there they talk about from NRCS what type of programs will be available for, folks that are living out there in San Juan County, what's better fitted for them. And we also obviously have, NNDA too, to share what type of programs, because they're well known throughout the reservation. And so I feel like it's really important for NNDA to have a spot at the table to share their programs, since they're, widely known, and they provide a lot of resource assistance as well. Then lastly, we're also proud to offer a conservation planning program that's in collaboration effort with the College Land Grant. I can share a little bit more information, but we do help chapters provide basic conservation plan assistance. If that's something that you guys are interested in, to having, bring us out there for an in-depth conservation planning workshop, we can do that as well. And lastly, we focus on increasing local fresh food production in areas that we serve, which is McKinley, San Juan, and Cibola counties. With garden projects, we collaborate with experts from COPE, LGL, and NMSU. So you recognize some of their names on our virtual content. So with that being said, overall, we're happy to share more in-person workshops tailored to gardening and crops and livestock later down till the end of our presentation for this evening. And, with that being said, let's go ahead and start our presentation for this evening.
She Jesse Jim Yenshe Donnet and Schlinigi Aid Ashin National Tenam Bitney Bashichin Chiji Dashiche Do Torigini Dashinella Lay Say I had dent Nashado Kahast Auto Department of Agriculture Ebanashnish as the department manager. So that's who I am, Hakut Anson Shle. And so with that being said, I'll go ahead and provide updates on the AIF program. Number one is, okay, let's talk about the performance update. How did the nation perform in 2025? So in 2025, if you look at the table that's provided, you could see each year's performance. What we'll focus in on this evening is 2025. And so with the pasture range forage program under the Risk Management Agency, the Navajo Nation has taken out a policy to provide pasture range and forage insurance for the pasture lands, the range lands on the Navajo Nation. It's estimated about 13 million acres is insured. That's the trust lands. And so with that, with the amount of acreage comes a large premium to participate in this program. And so in 2025, you can see the premium was at 33 million. And so since this is a USDA program, through RMA, the subsidy is that USDA will cover anywhere from 51% to 59%. And so that's how the table reads in the next column here under the USDA subsidy premium. So USDA covered 18.2 million. What we were left with the nation being obligated 14.9 million. And so how much did the nation pay? We paid $0 because, it's really important that you choose the correct insurance agent to ensure that the plan pays for itself. Although we do have that safety net to utilize the Navajo Nation CHSN funds for premium payment. Fortunately, we didn't have to do that this year. So as a result, the nation has benefited a total of 31.9 million. And after our premium was satisfied the 14.9, what was left to go into the AIF account is 16.9 million. And so that's sitting in the undesignated unreserved AIF funds, which is good news for our farmers and our ranchers across Navajo Nation. So with that being said, that's an update on the nation's performance in crop year 2025. Now continuing on with the AIF program. Last year we had set a sorry, I have my slides mixed up here. Okay, so last year we had set some priorities. It was some tall orders. And fortunately, we were able to complete 5 of the 7 priorities that were set. Number 1 was to reallocate the unapproved year 3 projects. As many of you guys are aware, if not, what had happened was how the project money is distributed is that each year for AIF, Department of Agriculture and DNR is tasked with the responsibility of evaluating projects to develop agriculture infrastructures, to assist with farmers and ranchers in operational incentive programs, livestock management incentive programs, and others. And so those were approved in 2022 with the Navajo Nation Resolution RDCD 4022. In there was 35 projects throughout, I believe, 4 different departments under the Division of Natural Resources. And so 35 projects equating to, oh geez, I don't have the numbers here, but off of my memory, I believe it was something like 29 million. It was a big chunk of change. And so 18 of them were not approved at DNR level because of project viability, and then also who were the sponsors of those projects. Reason being is because these applications were submitted in 2018. 2022, they were finally approved, but by then the project was either done or there was a change in the leadership of those entities that submitted the proposals. So with the 18, we reviewed them and found that only 14 of them were viable. And then what was remaining, we requested RDC and DNR to reappropriate them to projects that were already approved to increase the funding to remedy that situation. So that was done. We just got word last week that RDC is now moving to legislate that for the reappropriations. Number 2 is we completed the AIF performance audit that was directed by Budget and Finance Committee, as well as RDC chair. And so that was complete. Unfortunately, and fortunately, there were 11 findings. And we are working, Department of Agriculture, working with the Auditor General to develop a corrective action plan. And we're in the final stages of completing to having a final draft to request legislation to implement those changes. The third is we integrated the AIF program into the department's plan of operation in hopes of establishing long-term positions to manage the program efficiently. And so we are waiting again for legislation. We do have a sponsor for that change. With that, we'll go ahead and move forward with it, as well as updating the organizational chart along to complement the plan of operation changes. Lastly, we did develop a emergency drought contingency plan utilizing AIF funds following the Navajo Nation's drought contingency plan to implement water infrastructure improvements, water tank changes, as well as feed assistance and some other new programs that we would like to implement with the producers to be more effective. So I'll go to the next one. With the year 3, here's, a summarized detail update of the proposed changes. Remember, we're still working with it. And I stand corrected. What was allocated was 35.2 million. So those 18 projects equaled 9.4 million. As I explained earlier, 4 projects were eliminated. So that leaves 750,000 to reallocate to the other 14 projects. Where those funds were decided to be reallocated to was to the education, endowment, conservation corps, and capacity building projects to reinforce the management of AIF programs, and then also to assist with all of our partners that are working to educate our farmers and ranchers of sustainment, and then also just what you guys are doing, improving overall operations. And so if you look on the screen, you can look at what has been struck, what has been added. We have requested 500,000 for the rancher supplement feed, 1 million for the tribal ranchers infrastructure improvements, agency drought mitigation planning to assist with updating the drought contingency plan for the nation, and a focus on the farmers and ranchers, what type of farming and ranching contingency plans, more detail that we could help the people with. And so that's what that money is set aside for. We did eliminate the aerial survey with the Navajo Fish and Wildlife Department due to the reasons of they were given other fundings to conduct that survey. And I just got word that they had completed it. And what I do know is that there is a decrease in the feral horse population on the nation. So that was redirected to aerial horse roundups, because what we are finding and what we are receiving from the grazing officials and people is that some of these horses are in areas where our horse management team are unable to get to, and the mesas and trees, and so that makes it harder for them. So it's going to be a pilot. We want to see how it goes and how effective this is going to be. So we set aside the 350,000. And then the LCR, the Little Colorado River Agricultural Field Development, that was allocated with previous administration. And so we looked at the plans, the proposal, and so we changed the title to match what the intent of the project was to be. So that's available. And then we also visited the farmers along there. It's a really great operation. The 4 programs where the funding is being reallocated is listed there in the bowl, starting with the Navajo Agriculture Education Workshops outreach. So if your organization, NSA, or other similar were needing assistance with funding for material, like with the first aid kits or others. And so we would be able to assist you all in that. The Agriculture Science Endowment is 200,000 set aside for our Navajo youth agricultural students, as well as those that have the opportunity to further their education and experience in agriculture. That's set aside, and for scholarships. The Conservation Corps, that's to establish more positions to assist with our farmers and ranchers. We do get a lot of calls for assistance in transporting livestock and gathering, and the operations. And so that's what that's going to be for. Technical capacity building is also the same for administrative staff. With the recent change in salary, it is great for our employees. And so we have to set aside funding. And the list goes down. You all can review it. And it's really just to get the programs, the monies allocated and get moving on these much needed programs. So that's the year 3 reappropriations. You can see how they were swapped there. The 4 programs that were eliminated was the tribal ranch property taxes. That was to get up to date with our state lease fees, and that was eliminated because that's already covered with the lease fees that are paid by the tribal ranchers. And so it was a matter of crediting $2 million to the tribal ranches program, and then working with RDC and DNR and getting legislation to expend more than $800,000. And so we're current now, and those fundings are reapplied elsewhere. Meat processing facility planning, we had no sponsor, no contact information. And so part of the corrective action plan is that we need to have proposals that are in complete. The same with the other 3 projects, the other 2 projects. And so where it went through, you can see there. As far as the AIF program integration into the organizational chart right now, this is what it looks like. We have the Division of Natural Resources, and then we have Department of Agriculture and the staff listed here in the programs. And so those that are in the darker blue, those are the positions that we are wanting to create to be more effective. And that's going through legislation. With the emergency drought contingency plan. So when you look at the resolution and you look at the guidelines on how do you create these AIF projects to allocate funding, there is in the fund management plan, as well as the standing legislation, that indicates that, drought contingency projects should be funded immediately. And so we use the nation's drought contingency plan as a guideline to create these projects. And so in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see a budget for the funds, and it's estimating 25.3 million that we are requesting RDC to approve. Under Department of Agriculture, we would be managing 4 projects. And if you notice, they do say pilot. And so with the Navajo Tribal Ranchers Grazing and Supplemental Feed Project is open to everybody. It doesn't matter if you have a tribal ranch with the TRP program, or if you are on Navajo Nation trust lands, Big Navajo, and you have a grazing permit, or if your grazing permit is in transfer and you've been awarded a probate through probate. This program is going to be available for all of our ranchers to do a cost share type of program, and we're working on the guidelines on that. The next one would be the pilot Navajo Farm and Ranch infrastructure improvements. That would allow the Department of Agriculture to provide funding for our farmers and ranchers that are looking to, let's say a farmer needs irrigation pipe. They need to replace it all, or they're looking to sprinkler, or they need to, do something of that nature regarding farming. With our ranchers, they may need assistance with fencing material, or with earth dam clean out, or they need to fix up their windmill, what have you. So those monies we're working on making available, as well as the guidelines. With the agriculture field canal repair project, we have heard a lot from the Northern Agency farmers, as well as our dryland farmers, our Navajo Nation farmers, that, one of the main thing that's preventing them to being full capacity is the fact that the canals have not been repaired for decades. And then also their fields are not leveled. And so how can we assist them with that? And we're having conversations with farmer groups in Northern Agency to get a better idea. How can we help them with this? And so more information will become forthcoming on that. And then lastly is the feral horse and livestock management project. The nation does have an issue with feral livestock and horse populations. And so that would refund our horse management team. As I said, these positions are not general funds, they're operating off of AIF funds. And so that would allow us to establish 2 horse management teams, because these guys are the nation's ranch hands. And so there's only at the moment 3 of them. And, if we could get 7 more to help them, and really it's for our elders, and those are the people who are really in need of assistance, and so direct services. Water resources, you could see the long list there, and that covers watering points, replacing storage tanks. If you guys recall, last year Speaker Curley had requested, we worked with Speaker Curley, and then also the OPVP president, President Nygren, signed the emergency drought declaration requesting 6.5 for windmill repairs and storage tank replacement. So that was allotted, as well as other areas, and then also irrigation projects. Assisting our central agency farmers, our Fort Defiance agency farmers, and helping them get their dams repaired, because it's been years, there's a lot of sedimentation. And so putting funding towards that, as well as the needed earthen dam clean out and repair projects. We are working with water resources, and they've been tremendous in answering our requests. Please help this rancher, and Tyreek's been very good at it, and Jason. And then lastly, 2 projects with Fish and Wildlife, working on their water catchments, and then also their climate change program, refunding that. And so that's proposed. It's not set in stone. And if you could talk with your RDC member, and supporting this plan here, that is much needed. I'm not done. I do have, I'm sorry, some priorities I wanted to share with you all. Can you see my screen, Kelly?
It's saying you're going to start sharing your screen.
Okay.
Okay, so does it say PRF performance?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And so, like I was saying earlier, I got my slides a little mixed up. So that's what we have accomplished last year, and what we're working towards, and what we're trying to get done to help all of you farmers and ranchers out there in the Navajo Nation. So for 2026, 2027 priorities, we have created some positions within AIF. Right now, we're looking for a program project specialist, and also a administrative assistant to start the foundation work on establishing this program permanently. So check on DPM website. They're supposed to have been advertising it. And then also develop AIF policies, fine tuning what has been in place, and creating more. especially with the programs that we are proposing. And we didn't reinvent the wheel on these programs. We just utilized what was already there with USDA programming and fine tuning it to our people. And so hopefully we get close to it. And like I said, it's a pilot. We're going to learn together what works and what doesn't work. The third priority is to amend the fund management plan that has expired in 2023. There are a few changes that are needed to allow for the the money, the funding to go to where it should, as far as our assisting our producers with feed supplementation, securing off reservation grazing lands, and then also agriculture infrastructure, and then also providing grant funding for our small nonprofit organizations and our educational institutions and everyone in between that is working to help the nation's agricultural priorities. Number 4 is to procure a PRF insurance agent for the next 2 to 4 years, depending on what leadership's decision is. As you recall, 2 years ago, the nation had switched insurance providers, insurance agents, PRF from CKP to native lands. And so the contract ends the end of this year. And so we need to procure PRF agent for either 2 to 4 years. And then also we have to go back to the standing legislation that allowed the Navajo Nation to participate in the PRF program. We have to amend it to extend coverage from 2029 to 2032. We are going to be ending in 2028, but getting that secured right now since we're working on it. And then also to develop year 4 AIF projects. And so within the fund management plan, as well as with the whole audit, we need to fix a few things first before we are able to develop year 4 projects and to move forward and utilize the remaining funding. And so those are our priorities. We are about maybe halfway through, and it's just a lot of work, and that's okay because it's for our people. So with that, I know it was pretty short. I try not to talk too long. I'm sure many of you guys will have questions. So I'll end there, and thank you again, Kelly, Michael, and the team for giving the Department of Agriculture the opportunity to provide updates on our programs. And I look forward to providing more updates.